Hey everybody, and welcome back to our cheap food series. Today we are going to be making apple fritters. Now, apple fritters is one of my favorite recipes where you can utilize your apples that are just not perfect for fresh eating anymore. They have some spots, might have some bruises. That's fine. You can peel them, cut them up, throw them in this batter, and make amazing, delicious, fresh homemade donuts. And that's what makes the apple fritter cheap. You're utilizing your fresh produce instead of throwing it away after its peak. So it's a great recipe. I love it. Today we have Honeycrisp. I almost said Apple Crisp. We have Honeycrisp apples. So I already peeled and chopped these. If you want a video on how to peel and chop apples super fast with that old-fashioned core, let me know in the comments down below and we'll get one going for you on that. I like to chop them up into some pretty small pieces because I like to have bits of apple throughout the whole fritter. So we have 4 cups, which is 4 apples peeled and chopped, and we are going to pour 2 teaspoons of lemon juice over this and let it soak. I'm going to kind of mix it up a little bit. And this isn't going to affect the flavor or anything. You're not going to taste the lemon. It's just going to help keep the apples crisp and make sure that they don't start turning brown and oxidizing on us. So just a quick throw in the apple juice, and then we are going to set our apples aside for the moment. So now we are going to move on to our dry ingredients. So here I have a cup of flour and 2 teaspoons of baking powder. That baking powder is going to help it rise, get nice and fluffy. I'm going to use my Danish dough whisk. I love this thing. It's really good for dense dough, but I use it all the time anyways. We're going to add our sugar to that, and so we have 3 tablespoons of sugar. And you can adjust the sugar depending on the sweetness of your apples. Anything Honeycrisp or sweeter, I like to just do the 3 tablespoons because you have the sugar from the apple. But if you have like Pink Lady or Granny Smith, you might want to add a little more, but not more than 1/4 cup of sugar. Get that mixed in there. And then I have our 1/2 teaspoon of salt. I have 1.5 teaspoons of cinnamon, 1/4 teaspoon of nutmeg, and then the recipe calls for 1/8 of cloves, but clove is a really strong flavor and it's not my favorite. So I actually did like a 1/16 teaspoon of clove. I'm just going to sprinkle that in there. And whisk. And you just want to whisk until you get the cinnamon and other spices mixed evenly throughout. You don't want spots where it's like super dark. You want it all to be kind of this light color uniformly. So now we're going to set that aside. And we are going to do our wet ingredients. So we need 2 eggs. Come on. There we go. I have 2 teaspoons of vanilla, 2 tablespoons of melted butter that has cooled down to room temperature. And why that is so important is because if you add hot melted butter to your eggs, you're going to cook them. And so then you're going to have scrambled egg bits in your batter, which is not good. So let it cool down to room temperature. I'm going to get that in there. Half a cup of milk. Woo! Alright. I'm going to use my whisk again. Alright, and now I'm going to pour our egg mixture into our dry mixture. And whisk that all together. We want to get it to where it's just combined. All right. Now we are going to set that aside. We are bringing back our apples. All right. The next step, so this is a trick. We're going to basically dredge our apples in a flour cinnamon mixture. So in this bowl, I have a 1/4 cup of flour. You could also do cornstarch, which I added another teaspoon of, or half a teaspoon of cinnamon. And then I did like 1/8 of a teaspoon of nutmeg, and I left the clove out of this one. And mix that together. We're going to add our apple pieces into here. We're going to shake it around and coat them in that flour. And then we're going to add them to the batter. And the reason why you kind of want to dredge them first in either a flour or cornstarch mixture is to make sure that the batter sticks to the apple pieces and that they aren't sinking to the bottom. Because then you'll have some donuts that are all apple and have no batter, and then some donuts that are just batter and it's not great. And you don't want to just dump your apples in there. You kind of want to strain them out with your hands because you did pour lemon juice all over them and you don't want that getting in there. Right. So we have our apples all coated with that cinnamon flour mixture, and we are going to add them into our batter. And then we're going to fold the batter into the apples, and the apples into the batter. Just, it's going to look very apple-y, which is good because it's an apple fritter. But remember that we added baking powder to this batter, so it is going to rise and puff up as we fry them. But there we go. It looks so good already. So I'm gonna set that aside for a minute, and then I am going to get everything ready to fry it. All right, so we have our burner ready to rock. I have our Dutch oven. It is filled with vegetable oil, about a little over halfway. You can use any oil you like. I actually prefer peanut oil, but vegetable oil is what I have on hand, so that's what we are using today. And then I have my thermometer because we want to keep our oil at about 350 degrees. We also have a cookie sheet with a wire rack in it because as our fritters finish, we are going to take them from the oil, put them onto that wire rack. All that extra oil is going to drip off and prevent us from having soggy fritters. So we are going to lock down our fuel, set our Dutch oven on top, and we are going to have that at about a medium heat. I'm going to let that get up to temperature, and then I will see you for the next couple, or I'll see you for putting the fritters in the batter. All right, we are back and we are right at 350 degrees. So I'm just going to mix up the apple fritter batter real quick, just one more time. And then I like to measure out with a scoop. It's one of my larger scoopers. Probably a half cup, and then just kind of roll it off. You don't want to overfill your pan, so we're probably going to do about 3 at a time just because the oil level is so high. Using the scoop is going to make them more of like a ball and not like the flat. So you could definitely kind of scoop and spread if that's what you would prefer. I like to try to get the little chunks out because you want to keep your oil as clean as possible. We're looking at about 2 minutes on each side. I'm going to turn my burner down a little bit because now we are hovering at 365. You want them to look nice and golden like that. That one kind of fell apart. I tried to be all fancy. Kind of try to clean the oil out a little bit. I'm going to shut the oil all the way off. All right, we're going to take the thermometer out. I'm going to move the fritters over here. I don't have my hot pads, so I'm going to use this towel to just move the oil out of our way. I'm going to roll this up because it's oily. And now we're going to make our toppings for the fritters. As you can see, the nice, fluffy, doughy deliciousness. I'm going to flip them all so that the other side can drip. All right, so in this bowl we have a cup of powdered sugar, and what we are going to do, I'm going to break up the clumps. The most basic glaze for anything is powdered sugar and milk, but for these, actually going to use 3 tablespoons of apple juice to like really bring through that apple flavor. And then we also have a teaspoon of vanilla in here. I think we're going to add a little bit more. And you just want to get the clumps of powdered sugar out and make it nice and smooth. So our second topping is going to be just cinnamon sugar. So in this bowl I have a 1/4 cup of sugar and a teaspoon of cinnamon. And we're gonna kind of go over, how many do we have? 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, kind of 12. So I prefer the glaze. We are going to sugar 4 of them, and then we'll glaze the rest. this didn't work like I thought it was going to, so scratch that plan. We are just going to throw the fritter in the cinnamon sugar. So those look really good. All right, we're gonna give our glaze a mix again. And just kind of like to throw it in there. Spin it around. You want to do both of these while it's still warm, while the fritters are still warm. All right. And then I'm going to let it drain off the extra. That one might have been too glazy. All right, let's just do a quick flip. So again, one of the things that makes this recipe so great is that, you know, this is never a recipe that I buy apples for. But when I'm buying apples, I'm thinking, what am I going to be able to use these for when, you know, either we're sick of eating apples or they're kind of past their prime. Is there something I can use these for that, you know, we're going to eat right now, that we're in the mood for, that, so that we don't waste this produce? I hate wasting food. So every time I buy a bag of apples or even oranges or lemons, what am I going to make with these? And so it might be apple crisp one time, it might be apple sauce, it might be apple butter, apple fritters, apple cake, you know. It's just a very important part of being frugal, is making sure that you don't waste food. Now we're going to cinnamon sugar this one. I'll throw the little bits in the glaze. That apple cider or vinegar, or not vinegar, do not use apple cider vinegar in your glaze. That'd be so awful. The apple juice, apple cider, whatever you want to use in that glaze really just adds a little extra something. Now, well, I had a glazed little bite, which is my favorite, but we'll try this little cinnamon sugar. And inside you have that dough that's done. It's fluffy. The apples are nice and soft. Such a good little treat. Sorry about that. Couldn't help myself. I want to know down below if you try this out and you love it, or any recipes you have that utilize any type of produce before it goes bad to help you save money, not waste food. As always, thank you guys so much for staying with me and cooking with me today, and I'll see you on the next one.